Welcome in. We are going to talk about some real life, almost horror stories about open houses. And this is certainly not to scare anybody, but I do think it's really important to know that other people are having weird experiences as a real estate agent because it's not something that's often discussed. And when it does hit the news, it's usually something severe. I would say there's not a ton of murders, but there's definitely like the week I got my license when I was in California in, I don't even know, 2011, there had been a girl who was raped and murdered in an open house because she was alone. And that was probably the worst thing I'd ever heard. And listen, we all think that it's not going to happen to us. We all think that we're invincible. And until you've had your house broken into, I have, until you've had scary incidents at open houses, I have, you don't think it's going to happen to you. So this video is to help you understand that you're not the exception. And in fact, if you're like a young girl alone at an open house, especially if you're pretty, you're probably a target. And I know you guys have probably all heard this before, but when we are doing our job, which is marketing the house to the public that it's going to be open that day, you really don't know who's looking. And that hits twice. So you have the fact that you're going to be at this house, possibly alone. People know exactly what hours you're going to be there. And people also know that the house you live in is empty. And if, or it could be, at least you're not there. Who knows about your family members? So those are kind of two things that you have to think of when it comes to an open house. And I know it's hard to think like that and you probably roll your eyes and want to turn this video off. But when I share these stories with you, I hope that something just keeps you alert, because rule number one of an open house, your life is more important, far more important than the house or the things in it. And as a real estate agent, when you take a listing or when you work an open house for another agent, you have a responsibility, and it sits in you that you're responsible for this house, that you have to make sure that it's safe, that it's in good condition, like nothing happens to it while it's, in your possession for those few hours. And so I think that when you get stuck in this really scary situation that happens at a lightning bolt speed, it's kind of hard to remember, like, oh, my life is more important. And instead you're like, shit, I got to make sure that the house is safe. At least that's how I felt in all of these situations. So I'm here to tell you, like, you are way more important than any house or any object in a house. So I've done at least 1,000 open houses. I tried to calculate before I did this video, and I got to 978 open houses. So I know I've done more than that because that was all that I could actually calculate. So of all of those open houses, I have plenty of good memories, but I can tell you the exact amount of open houses that I've had that scared the shit out of me. So ironically, the first two times were the same family. It was a woman with her mother, and the woman had two kids, and both kids looked like Chucky dolls. It was a boy and a girl. And I was in Arcadia, which is part of Phoenix in Arizona. And the first time I saw them, they came in. I was with my business partner, and we just looked at each other and were so creeped out. We all know the quote it says, your energy introduces you before you step into a room. And it was just such an eerie feeling. It felt wrong. And feel free to judge me for judging people who walk into my open house. When you've done enough open houses, you know who's a real buyer. You know who's a looky-loo. You know who's a nosy neighbor. You know who doesn't belong there. And these people did not belong there. And you can chalk it up to the fact that it was the car they were driving. It was the sense that I got when I spoke to them, asking them very direct questions about being pre-qualified, where they currently live, are they in a rental, trying to get the information, because I was kind of trying to prove myself wrong by not judging them, because I felt bad that I was judging. And it turns out that they walk in, they were a total tornado. One adult went with one child to one side of the house, and the other adult went with the other child to the other side of the house. And my business partner and I just looked at each other and we're like, this is fucking weird. So we stepped outside And that was it. I think that house was vacant and staged. So I didn't really feel bad if anything was taken because it was staging furniture. So we stepped outside, we had our phones, and that was kind of it. There wasn't much for them to see in there, so they left quickly. I don't even know how long. It had to be over a year later. See them again, and this time the house is occupied. People live in this home, and I see them get out of the car through the front window, and I just freeze. I'm like, what do I do? I know these people can't afford this home. I've already talked to them, I've pre qualified them, and here they are coming back. And these people live here. Like, it felt violating to me almost. And because I've now seen them twice in a span of a year, a little bit longer, it made me wonder how many other open houses they were hitting and what their goal was. Like, is this something that they were just doing on like a hot summer day and just needed to get out of the heat and they go look at nice houses for fun? Or is this something like there's another car in the neighborhood, they're casing it, they're understanding the floor plan, what's in there? I'll never know because I didn't talk to them about those things. But that time I grabbed my car keys and my phone and stepped outside. They were in there a little bit longer. Again, they did the same exact drill. One adult, one child. Each of them went separate ways. And I just stood there and called the listing agent because I was not the listing agent at that time and just said, hey, like there's these really creepy people in the house. I hope that your clients' cameras are on and working because if anything's stolen, like I want it to be on video, but I'm going to leave afterwards because I just feel a little unsafe. I didn't think that anything was going to happen. I just didn't feel good. So those were the first two times. Just an eerie feeling, nothing major, just unsettling, like, all right, let's take a break from open houses. The next two times are what got me. So it was a hot summer day in Arizona, probably 115, 120 degrees. And rule number one, if I hadn't said this, maybe it's rule number two of open houses. Yeah, this would be rule number two. Rule number one, your life is more important than the house. Rule number two, don't park in the garage. That's totally a rule. I don't know if you ever heard that. And now I know why. I never parked in the garage. I was always told not to park in the garage. And on this one day, I'm sitting in a very nice, exclusive neighborhood in Paradise Valley. The house was brand new. It was $4 million. Where it was situated in the neighborhood was pretty much on the one-way street that came in and out to get to the main street to get out of the neighborhood. And I just felt like, you know what? It is so hot. I'm just going to park in the garage. Like, who cares? Whatever. So I parked in the garage and really, truly the entire open house, I was like so happy that I was going to go get in a not boiling car. And this house had a lot of secret rooms, doors, compartments, closets. It was a very interesting house. I'd actually never seen anything like it. And we get to the end of the open house. It was a weekday, so it wasn't busy. I had another appointment to get to. And I went and put my purse in my car. My car is in the garage and my phone is in my purse. And I just have my keys in my hand. And I put my purse in the car. I go do one more sweep of the house because it had so many, like I said, like doors and compartments. I wanted to make sure everything was locked up. I needed the doors to be closed, locked, shut, lights off, etc. I'm turning the corner to get to the front door and there's windows on either side of the front door. And I see this family get out of a jalopy of a car. Not only did the sight I see scare me, but they parked at the end of the walkway. Usually people leave that spot open for pedestrians to walk up the walkway. They did not. They parked right in front of it, which also tells me this is not a good situation to be in because that's a giant red flag. That's weird. So I see them walking up the walkway. I run to the front door to make sure that it's locked. And they start banging on the front door and yelling at me through the glass. We want to come in. We want to see this house. We're loud. And I was like, well, I actually have another appointment to get to in Mesa, which at that point was probably like a 45-minute drive. And I just said, I'm sorry, I have to go. And I'm panicking, knowing that my car is in the garage. My phone is in my purse and my purse is in the car and I can't get my car out and I have nowhere to go and I have no one to call if they come in right now. All I have are effing keys. Like, what an idiot. And so we kind of went back and forth for maybe 30 to 45 seconds. It felt like an eternity. And they finally calmed down. They finally left, but they didn't leave. They went and sat in their car. I ran into my phone. I ran into the garage, grabbed my phone, called my dad. I asked him to stay on the phone with me. I didn't really know what to do. Like, this is, of course, my punishment for parking in the damn garage, trying to keep a cool car. And eventually they left, and I canceled my next appointment and I went with my dad straight away. We went straight and bought a gun. And it was very nerve wracking to know that I am in this giant 2-story house with all sorts of secret compartments, pretty much in an exclusive neighborhood where there's not a lot of traffic, driving traffic, foot traffic, any traffic. It's dead of summer, and the street is a one-way in and out for the whole neighborhood. That is a moment that you look at yourself and you're like, somebody needs to know where I am. They need to have my location. I need to have somebody here with me. This is why we have buddies for open houses. We either have somebody who's in real estate or a lender who sits with you. I know women who have their husbands who just go and they sit with them or act like a buyer when somebody else walks in the house to have protection there. Because you really are in this vulnerable, I'm getting goosebumps. You really are in this vulnerable position that we are so desensitized to our job that when somebody calls and they want to go see a house, maybe other than vetting the fact that they can pay for this house, what else are you vetting? I can tell you nothing. Maybe you're Googling them, but most of us are so excited, especially if you're new in your career, that you just like jump. You're excited. Okay, let's go help. I got some business. Let's go. And we forget that this is such a easy target for people who have that predatorial insight or instinct to want to come and find somebody who's easy prey. And when you don't have that perspective because you're not looking for prey or looking for someone to go target at an open house, you don't really think that it's possible because it's hard to think like somebody else. So that's called projection. And it is unnerving. It is rattling. It really knocks you off your high horse and tells you you're no different than anybody else and you're not the exception and you're not invincible. So later that summer, I was at a different open house and I was also like kind of in a situation of like this house, while it was on a the corner of the street, it was about 10 blocks south from the main road. And that's like a north south road. And the east west roads on that particular street were both dead ends. And the house across the street was abandoned and vacant. And I had been at that house for a few months. I talked to the contractor. He got to know the neighbors. Well, most of those neighbors were out of town for the Arizona summer. So again, here I am finding myself in not only a vacant house that was staged, but also a vacant neighborhood. And I had been at that house, like I said, for multiple months, didn't think anything of it. Again, a old jalopy of a car rolls up. He does not park in a red flag spot, I will say, but when he gets out of the car, he's extremely overweight. And I instantly panicked. The second I laid eyes on him, I panicked. He was in a long sleeve collared shirt, slacks, dress shoes. I think it was like a yellow tie. And he gets to the front door. He walks in. I'm sitting at one head of the dining room table, and he's like leaning and huffing and puffing on the other head of the table. This is an 8-person table. I'm in the dining room, so I can always see who's coming in and out. And my spidey senses just went off. And my first thought was, if this giant man, not tall, but wide, happens to be able to knock me down and lay on me for whatever reason, I'm going to be dead. I'm 120 pounds. I'm skinny. I was terrified. So I did not show him that I was scared. I gave him bed, bath, price, and told him to go look around. When he went to go look around, my purse was in a cabinet behind me. I already had my phone and my keys next to me because that's how I hold open houses. I went and got my gun. I unholstered it. I put it on the table next to my right hand and I opened the doors. I'm getting goosebumps again. I opened the doors in the dining room table that led to the front patio so I could have an escape. Again, this is 120-degree weather. When he came back from looking through the house, he looked at the doors and he knew that they were closed at first because Who's opening doors in 120-degree weather? Okay, nobody. So he gets back and stands in the same spot, huffing and puffing because there's stairs in that house. And I just looked down at the gun and I looked dead into his eyes and said, I think you should leave. And he just kind of had this startled look on his face and said, okay. He didn't give me a hard time. He knew that I didn't feel safe. And that time was a different type of scary than the previous time because I was face to face with this person. They were 6 to 8 feet away from me. I had taken off my shoes so that if I needed to bolt out, actually, I had my flip flops with me, so that if I needed to bolt out, I could. And obviously, that was after 2 times in one summer, I was done. I took a very long break from open houses, and it just, it's, you want to be this like warrior who goes back and you're not scared and try me and I can do it. But at the same time, when it actually happens to you, it is really, really scary. You are in a vacant house. Like I said, you are extremely vulnerable. And it's just, it's a rare situation for this to happen because obviously out of over 1,000 open houses, I can only remember 4 times. And most of us are willing to take that chance. But the thing is when you don't think it's going to happen to you, that's what makes you the victim and a much easier target because you don't have those spidey senses. They will go off as soon as somebody who does not belong in that open house with you shows up. So my suggestion is to always carry something that allows you to defend yourself. If you know how to physically defend yourself because you've gone to Krav Maga, karate, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, and you know how to physically defend yourself, all the power to you. I've tried those things. They don't really work for me. I've tried. So I got a gun and I don't really know what else to say. Arizona's you don't need a permit to carry. When I got to Florida, I got my permit here to carry because, like I said, we put ourselves in these situations that we are so desensitized to. And it's really, really important for people to know where you are. And if you're not sure about somebody, Google them. Hopefully you have the app Forewarn, because that way you can do a background check. It's a very light one, but it tells you all of their criminal history. So when you meet somebody, you can at least know, like, do they have 37 criminal infractions? If so, are they all traffic related? Are they domestic abuse? Are they cocaine? Are they what? And how recent are they? Do they have bankruptcies? Do they have liens against them? Like, that's what Forewarn does. It helps us understand the client. And I have used it many times, both on dates and for open houses, to when people come in and they're like, hey, big dick daddy over here, I got $20 million I want to spend. And I look them up and I'm like, you have all these liens against you. You have bankruptcies against you. Yeah, I'm good. So there are tools out there to help you keep you safe, but probably doing an open house with somebody is going to be the first and foremost, like the quickest way to continue working on your business and have protection at the same time. Pepper spray, a gun, having somebody know where you are, those types of things. So again, this is not to scare you. It's really, truly to make you aware. And if you guys want to hear more of these stories, I definitely have more of them. These were just the top 4 that I wanted to share. And I was actually thinking of even bringing people on to talk about their stories so we can continue learning and being aware of all the different types of tricks and thieves and crooks and criminals that are out there because of the situation that we're in. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on the next one.